Hippie ableism. So annoying. So frustrating. I'll explain. Okay, so let me just try and explain this. So you're like in the health food store getting the food you need to not have a flare up, clean food, extra money, no choice. And you see some super health conscious hippy dippy person, and not that don't have hippie in me. I'm not trying to put anyone down, but you see someone who is, they're healthy. They're strong. They don't have an illness. They're just doing this because it's a choice, which is great. It's good to be healthy, and that's a good choice. But these people lack theory of mind for people in my situation. So let me explain. So they say like, "Whoa, dude, like, why do you use a cane?" and or whatever, and or whatever conversation they start, and you try to explain logically. Well, I have a connective tissue disorder. It's genetic. It's systemic. Um, you know, it's um it's a challenge. It makes me sick in various ways, and I have to manage and do my best, and I have to use mobility aids now, and I have to eat clean, or whatever, just yeah. And then they respond with, "Whoa, well, like if you just like go on this cleanse or like meditate, you can so like get cured of that," and blah blah blah. And even more obnoxious is if you're like rushing and you're stressed out about money. You have so many supplements to get, so many different foods that you can't afford them all, or you're trying to choose like I need the chia seeds more than I need the protein powder, and I need the enzymes, but I don't necessarily need the CoQ10, or whatever. And you're stressing out for real reasons in your life, and um, they just don't know what that's like, and they start saying stuff like, "Whoa, it seems like you really have like deep trauma. And you know what? Like, all illnesses are so totally caused by trauma. And like, if you just like meditate every day, you can totally cure yourself with like this like EFT tap therapy and like blah 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 blah." And it's just like, it's so frustrating. I'm not putting down meditating and getting control of your stress and your anxiety and dealing with your depression. That's a side effect of the illness, the situational depression in our life in terms of finances and managing. If you're a parent and you're sick, and bringing in enough money and managing where it's all going, all of that, it is really important to have the balance of managing the stress, albeit real stress for sure, but it can do us in. I don't disagree with that. What I disagree with is this idealistic point of view coming from basically from the peanut gallery, from people who don't have and don't live with the multitude of challenges that you live with. These guys are living in, they have their health, they don't have an autoimmune disorder. They might have like a little bit of like mild IBS, and they're like, "Whoa, dude, I totally had like some like a little bit of IBS, and I totally like cured it by like reducing my anxiety." And it's like, yeah, you could improve or even cure mild IBS if it's rooted from anxiety or like gut issues or headaches or whatever, but you can't do that with stuff like lupus and MS and like significant complex medical illnesses. There's also science, like while it's true that trauma can play a significant role in developing these illnesses, and they do. I don't disagree with that either. I know trauma played a huge role in how I am today, massive, but that's not the only thing. The trauma that I developed from the lack of understanding from people telling me stuff like what I just mentioned, even if they're well-meaning about it, as well as the people who are more cruel than just well-meaning, of course. And the lack of accommodation in society, and me having to fake like I was okay with both my Asperger's syndrome, with both my autism and my physical health for a long time, my fatigue, having to push myself, having to conform and be and perform. My poor body had dumped so much energy into that I just couldn't keep sustaining it. And now I'm a 30-year-old granny, and I'm in the body of someone twice my age, and I would like to recover. And I absolutely do. I'm spiritual. I'm pagan. I hold my faith, and I feel like I'm losing my faith. I try and pray, and I center myself and ground, and like, I get it. I do understand the need for cognitive ways to manage stress and grief and strife, even if the reasons are justifiable. However, um, it's not going to cure on its own. It's not going to. There's also science. I mean, even science supports that reduced stress levels will definitely reduce the level of illness. That is scientifically legitimate. It's frustrating when these hippie ableist types, if I may call them that, no offense, kind of, you know, get too flaky and seagull-ish and totally unrealistic and just, fly by singing like Kumbaya and taking a freaking seagull dump on your situation, I mean, that's when I get a little irate, when it's like, dude, I have like $300 to buy $600 worth of stuff, and I'm trying to turn a Rubik's Cube here, and you're telling me that I need to somehow fucking meditate it all away and melt it all away with by accepting that I'm traumatized. And I mean, that's just not practical. If I were to say, practical cognitive tools just work better, not idealistic ones. Like a practical cognitive, you know, evaluation of the situation. I just say things like, hey, what is the most important that I need here? Like saying, all right, I can't afford this and this and this. What do I need most? And that's all I can do right now, and that's the way it is. There are lots of good, like, cognitive solutions. I'm kind of big about the whole, like, test of faith. Things happen for a reason, the universe, it has faith that you are strong and you can deal with the limits, and it might not be easy, but you can somehow be okay, and just focusing on the things that you're focusing on, your realistic hopes, more immediate goals. What I guess really irks me about the hippie ableist people is that it's well-meaning in the way that somebody bakes you a cake and they didn't know you were dairy-free and it's dairy. Like, it doesn't help. It's not gonna help because it doesn't apply to you. It's only gonna piss me off more. To sort of take a practical approach, with, faith added, if you are a person of faith. And if you're not, then just simply a practical approach. That's different. What I mean by hippie ableism is they go to the point because they aren't ill themselves, they haven't experienced it, because either they haven't experienced it, or maybe they've had a little bit of illness, like a milder illness. And so meditation and prayer and all this worked really well for them to deal with that little bit of illness. You know, they think that means it's going to apply to you. when you're like in a wheelchair from like multiple sclerosis, and you are on a fixed disability income, and you can only get out on your good days to get your groceries. I mean, they don't know what any of that's like, you know. So to tell you that, to just meditate and imagine and visualize, even though it's well-meaning, it's insensitive, it's obnoxious, it's just not logical, it's not practical. Same thing with the autism thing, you know. Like, you have kids in like hippie ableist communities with autism, and they need a diagnosis so they can get intervention and help, um, and be set up later in life, you know, at least to take care of themselves and function. And, you know, they need the right, I'm not saying like harsh ABA therapy, but, you know, they need, in Canada, we have autism funds, you know, and if your child is diagnosed, they get autism funds to access therapy and help. Now that's a whole other ball game, and it involves extortive therapists and stuff, but let's not go there. That there's some good therapists out there too, so let's just go with that for now. So basically what I'm saying is, these hippie ableist people who, you know, live in these communities that are like really radically hippie, kids have autism. And although I'm also, you know, I am also pro neurodiversity, I'm also proud of being an autistic person, I'm in the middle. I don't deny that we need some help, the right kind of help, not, you know, harsh chelation and ABA smack on the wrist institution, but like compassionate but reliable and structured help to set us up, you know, to help us out, to set us up for success in motivated by honey, positive kind of way. We need, you know, help and assistance and accommodations like that in the schools and with therapy and all that kind of thing. You know, everyone's different what works for them. But what I'm saying is that we can't just have no help and be like, not have any diagnosis, and because we can't just have like kids not getting any kind of diagnosis or assistance or accommodation because the parents believe that autism's just a label, dude. You know, like, don't label yourself. Autism is just a label. Kumbaya. Oh, don't label yourself. Thank you, Seagull Dumper. Shut up. I really appreciate your advice. But honestly, like, these people who do this deny their children of access to help that they might need to set them up for success. It's going too far. I'm in the middle. I am a person who's spiritual, although I'm also practical. I do pray. I do have, you know, a reasonable degree of faith, but not an idealistic, unrealistic degree of faith. Like, oh yeah, I'm just like drowning, and like, I shouldn't make a phone call because God's just gonna save me if I meditate. Stuff like, you know, eating clean and eating healthy is really important, and I'm pretty thorough about it. I'm very thorough about it. I juice and I eat sort of a paleo gaps kind of a diet and specific carbohydrate, and I do try to do like 80 to 90% organic, and, you know, like, I'm pretty good. But at the same time, like, things like complete and utter in like all only raw, you know, like, for example, fully raw is actually really harsh on the organs. To just eat totally all raw, it's, you know, they say it's like curing everything and stuff. Raw food is great depending on which food, you know. Some food is actually better to be consumed cooked, um and some is really super nutritious raw, so it really depends. Like, people being like extreme vegans or extreme like fruitarians, you know, those people that go and like, um don't eat anything else except for like fruit that's naturally fallen off the trees and things like that. And, you know, lucky for them, their bodies are so tough that sometimes their bodies can sustain it, which is almost just sheer luck, because it's really a very unhealthy, imbalanced diet, and it's just not sustainable. I don't blame like conventional doctors for harping on parents who feed their kids extreme vegan raw like diets, and then the kids get like sick, malnourished. I am also just as much against the thought of people packing their kids all these fruit roll-ups with like red dye number 141 and like synthetic crap like MSG soups for lunch and all this garbagey food. For sure that makes me cringe, but it's just like, let's be reasonable. Like I pack my kids a brown rice bread gluten-free sandwich with some canned salmon and some nice whole eggs, natural mayonnaise, and sometimes I put a little bit of sprouts or salad mix in with the salmon. Pack them an apple. I pack them some brown rice, gluten-free crackers, and a fruit and nut bar, and like reasonable, wholesome stuff. I don't pack them like a crazy like sprouted quinoa, like fermented kefir bowl, like I don't have the energy to prepare that kind of stuff. But I pack them reasonably healthy, balanced lunches. But what I'm saying is that I got off on this huge tangent with all this. The hippie ableism falls into that extreme, people that are already healthy, that can afford to be that extreme, they can afford to eat these kind of risky raw diets that would be far too much for like the digestive system of someone with a complex illness. Um, you know, and a little bit of meditation can cure their mild IBS, but they don't have any business telling you that all of this sort of idealistic, flaky stuff can solve your problems. It's like I said, it's almost rude, at least insensitive of them to give out this kind of advice. It really pisses me off when they do that. Um, the other thing too is that when the whole thing about trauma, like when I'm told that it's all trauma, that pisses me off because I have a very significant degree of trauma because I had these issues in the first place and I didn't get the help I needed. So I had to survive in some kind of, famine like kind of a state, being starved of the needs that I had and having to be doing all these things that were, poor coping, but quick fix coping. And that caused me PTSD. And then when I failed at being able to do that, I'd get hurt and that would cause me PTSD. And the PTSD indeed made my health much worse, but it actually, the chicken, in terms of the chicken and egg question, was the fact that I am an autistic person and that I'm a zebra. I'm an autistic zebra, and like a zebra meaning Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I was born that way, and I didn't have the accommodation that I needed from the get-go, including by ableist hippie types, well-meaning ableist hippie types. It's ironically, if they examined it, they're so against all these ableist totalitarian societies, and yet they actually fuel this very idea, because in order for people to thrive in some sort of like woman, like growing like fruit on the lawn type of a colony, they need to be physically sturdy and able to like be in one of these sustainable raw vegan communities. You need to be initially able to do it. If we had these communities where some people who were able could do it and people who were not able didn't do it and were able to do what they could do from bed and help out in a more administrative way if they could, or they could knit some sweaters in the winter by sitting in a chair relaxing, like, and then while the more sturdy people could go out there in the fields, like if it was a balanced society like that. But these people a little more idealistic than that, and it's obnoxious. It's like, again, they don't get diagnosed, like their kids don't get diagnosed or recognized with illnesses or things they might need accommodation for, like autism. Autistic kids, like the thing about these like hippie types is they're really into like spontaneity a lot of the time, and that doesn't work well for autistic people. Like autistic kids need structure. So if their kid fails to thrive, I mean, they could ultimately fail to thrive in a super spontaneous kind of lifestyle. A little bit of spontaneity and flexibility is great. Anyone can benefit from that, but they need some structure. Everybody needs structure, but some people more than others. And people on the autism spectrum usually need a lot of structure. So, people in these communities, often their kids don't get recognized if they have any kinds of ailments or any kinds of needs with their differences, neurologically or disabilities or whatever, because there is no disabilities in these communities. They're too hippie-ishly idealistic. And is that ableism? For sure. Oh, don't label yourself. Kumbaya.